UNRWA warns ongoing Israeli attacks aligned with West Bank annexation vision. And also Alexander Dalchiev appointed as Russian ambassador to the US. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Badani. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Brendan Lepal. The Iraqi Foreign Ministry announced on Thursday Iraq will host an upcoming Arab summit on 17 May. According to a statement, Iraqi Foreign Minister Fuad Hussein chaired a meeting to assess preparations for hosting the summit in Baghdad. He said the date was set following discussions with officials at the Cairo-based Arab League. He added Iraq is working to create proper conditions to ensure the success of the summit. The announcement follows an emergency Arab summit on Gaza, hosted by Egypt on Tuesday, where regional leaders reaffirmed the urgent need for a full ceasefire and a prisoner exchange agreement, paving the way for a permanent end to Israel's war and a complete withdrawal from Palestinian territories. The summit also approved a 5-year, $53 billion plan to rebuild Gaza without displacing its residents. The statement also reaffirmed the rejection of any displacement of Palestinians from their land, quote, under any pretext or circumstances. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency, or UNRWA, Director of West Bank Relations, Roland Frederick, warned that the ongoing attacks appear to align with the vision of West Bank annexation. According to him, approximately 40,000 people have been forcibly displaced from their homes in the northern West Bank, most of them from 3 refugee camps in the region. Israel's large-scale attacks in the West Bank over the past few weeks have forced thousands of residents to flee. Refugee camps were also destroyed. A large portion of the camps now stand empty, with residents unable to return and struggling to find alternative shelter. The ongoing assault, which began in late January, is the longest in 2 decades, an unprecedented situation. The military operation, supposedly targeting fighters in the West Bank, was launched immediately after the ceasefire in Gaza took effect. Initially, operations began in the Jenin, Tul Karem and Nur Shams refugee camps, but later expanded to more areas in the northern West Bank. Israel continues to restrict Muslims from the West Bank from entering the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound on Fridays throughout Ramadan, allowing only a limited number of people over the age of 50 and their children to worship there. According to Israel's statement, only a limited number of Muslim worshippers will be allowed entry starting this Friday based on last year's arrangements, without specifying the exact number. It added only those permitted to enter are men aged 55 and above, women aged 50 and above, and children up to 12 years old. Additionally, all worshippers must also pass through security checks. However, it stated that there are no restrictions on Arab Israeli residents. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is located in the heart of Jerusalem's old city, on a site known to Jews as the Temple Mount. The Muslims regard the site as the third holiest place in Islam, after Mecca and Medina. The Hamas group remains supportive of the ceasefire with Israel, despite the first phase of the agreement ending last weekend. The spokesperson for the Azzedine al-Qassam brigades, Abu Ubaidah, stated that they chose to uphold the agreement to prevent Palestinian bloodshed. Abu Ubaidah added Israel's threats to resume the fighting or tighten the Gaza blockade would not secure the release of hostages, adding that the group was, quote, ready for all possibilities. Israel wants to extend the first phase of the ceasefire agreement until mid-April. However, Hamas insists that the second phase must proceed as planned. The Gaza ceasefire deal that took effect in January calls for the remaining hostages to be freed in a second phase, during which final plans would be negotiated for an end to the war. Tensions escalated when Israel halted the entry of goods into Gaza. Previously, President Trump proposed a plan to relocate Palestinians from Gaza, which drew international condemnation. Russian President Vladimir Putin appointed senior veteran diplomat Alexander Darchiev as ambassador to the United States on Thursday to lead a rapprochement that has stunned Ukraine and Washington's European allies. The foreign ministry said last week Washington had given it the green light at a meeting between Russian and US officials in Turkey to appoint Darchiev, who now serves as head of the foreign ministry's North America department. A 6-hour meeting in Istanbul last Thursday, where the delegations worked to try to restore normal function of their embassies, was the latest sign of a thaw between the two countries. President Donald Trump has upended previous policy on the war in Ukraine, opening up bilateral talks with Moscow and pausing military aid to Kyiv after clashing with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in the White House last week. Moscow and Washington had been embroiled in a series of diplomatic rows over staffing and embassy properties in recent years that Russia says has strained relations. Russia has had no ambassador in Washington since last October, when the previous envoy, Anatoly Antonov, left his post. Darchiev, 64, has served 2 long spells in Russia's Washington embassy and was ambassador to Canada from 2014 to 2021.
Yeah, that's the issue at hand.
About the Crimea is that
Now, the Kremlin on Thursday condemned what it called a highly confrontational speech by French President Emmanuel Macron, in which he called Russia a threat to Europe and said Paris would consider putting other countries under its nuclear protection. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the French leader's comments in an address to the nations on Wednesday were an indication that Paris was looking to prolong the war in Ukraine. Peskov commented Emmanuel Macron had omitted important facts and failed to mention Russia's own legitimate concerns and fears about the eastwards expansion of NATO towards Russia's own borders. Macron also said in Wednesday's speech that France was ready to discuss extending the protection of its nuclear arsenal to other European countries. Peskov said this amounted to a claim to nuclear leadership in Europe, which he said was very confrontational. Under Macron, France has supplied arms to Ukraine and said it is prepared to consider sending troops there to help ensure the implementation of any peace agreement. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz called for the merging of European arms companies on Thursday after a special EU summit on Ukraine ended. Scholz added that companies must have the opportunity to do so without being hindered by European competition rules. The outgoing German Chancellor further said it was necessary for EU member states to be given the opportunity to become involved in ongoing armaments and equipment projects taking place in other member states. European leaders present in Brussels back plans to spend more on defense and continue to stand by Ukraine in a world upended by President Donald Trump's rehearsal of United States policies.
Wir haben auch miteinander vereinbart, dass wir auch an unseren eigenen Hilfen festhalten und dass wir Europäer die Ukraine auch noch weiter und stärker unterstützen müssen. Und gleichzeitig besteht aber für alle auch große Klarheit. Wir wollen alles dafür tun, dass auch die USA weiterhin ein Partner bleibt für die Ukraine, zusammen mit uns und anderen internationalen Freunden, und weiterhin die Ukraine unterstützt.
The summit took place amid fears that Russia, emboldened by its war in Ukraine, may attack an EU country next, and that Europe can no longer rely on the US to come to its aid. And coming up next, Thailand to repatriate 1,500 people free from job scam syndicates every week. Stay tuned. Thailand is set to repatriate 1,500 people freed from alleged job scam syndicates in Myanmar each week. Thai Foreign Ministry spokesperson Nikonde Balankura said thousands remain stranded in camps along the Thai-Myanmar border following their rescue. He clarified that Thailand has reached an agreement with Myanmar and China to facilitate the repatriation process. Nikonde further explained that repatriations would also focus on other foreign nationals, including Africans, and the ministry is coordinating with foreign embassies to ensure immediate repatriations.
we urge the receiving governments to find support that on their own, while Thailand will also seek support from international organizations. I used the example of the IOM, International Organization for Migration, who is also ready to assist Thailand. That's the latest I heard. But we haven't talked about the modalities as to who's going to, how the contribution will be divided into. But please rest assured that we'll find a way to help them to the best of our ability.
Last month, 260 foreigners, including 15 Malaysians, were rescued from alleged call center syndicates in Myawaddy, Myanmar. They were released by Myanmar authorities and sent to Thailand for deportation. Indonesia's Transportation Ministry has forecast that 52% of the country's population, or approximately 146.48 million people, will be travelling during the 2025 Eid holiday. According to the ministry statement, movement from Java Island is expected to account for 51.3%, or around 81.5 million people, with the majority of travellers originating from West Java, East Java and Central Java. According to Transportation Minister Dudi Purwagandhi, the movement of people to and from West Java during this period is expected to be high. Therefore, cooperation between the ministry and the provincial governments will be crucial. He recently met with West Java Governor Dedi Mulyadi and Banten Governor Andra Soni to discuss preparations, focusing on coordination efforts between central and regional governments, transport operators and other stakeholders to manage the anticipated surge in passenger and goods movement. The ministry is working with the West Java government to address potential congestion at 3 key toll gates, critical for vehicles travelling between Jakarta, West Java, East Java and Central Java. During the peak of the holiday rush, the volume of vehicles leaving Jakarta is expected to increase by up to 60% compared to normal daily traffic. In other news, 7&I Holdings, the Japanese operator of the 7-Eleven convenience store chain, appointed its first foreign CEO on Thursday and handed him the task of overhauling its business to fend off a $47 billion overseas takeover bid and engineer a recovery. After a tumultuous 6 months that began when it received a buyout offer from Canadian Circle K operator Alimentasia Kushta, ACT, 7&I announced its most far-reaching leadership and business restructuring on Thursday. The company said lead outside director Stephen Dacus, who previously held executive roles with Walmart and Fast Retailing, will succeed Ruichi Isaka as chief executive on 27th May. Additionally, the retail conglomerate said it will buy back about $13.5 million worth of shares through fiscal year 2030 and pursue a listing of its North American convenience store subsidiary by the second half of 2026. 7&I, which has more than 80,000 7-Eleven stores in 20 countries and regions, also said it agreed to sell its superstore units to Bain Capital for $5.50 billion, that it would sell down its ownership of 7 Bank Limited to below 40%. 7&I has been the target of investor criticism over its capital allocation for years, and in August 2024 received the ATC buyout offer that was later raised to $47 billion. Residents of the South Korean city of Pocheon on Thursday called for an immediate suspension of all live fire exercises within their district after several bombs were accidentally dropped by South Korean fighter jets, injured 15 people and damaged houses and a church in the city. The Gyeonggi-do Bukbu Fire Services said in a statement of the 15 wounded, 2 were seriously hurt. South Korea's Air Force, which issued a public apology for the incident, said 8 225 kilograms Mk-82 bombs from KF-16 jets fell outside the shooting range during joint live fire exercises. Residents in the area have protested about the disturbance and potential danger from nearby training grounds for years.
민간 지역에 포탄이 떨어진 사건은 공군의 훈련 관리 및 안전 절차가 심각하게 미비했음을 여실히 보여주는 사고로 이에 대한 책임을 엄중히 묻지 않을 수 없다. 향후 이러한 사건이 재발하지 않도록 실질적인 조치를 취하고 즉각 모든 사격 훈련을 중지할 것을 강력히 요구합니다.
Pochan is about 40 kilometers northeast of Seoul, near the heavily militarized border with North Korea. Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro arrived in Brasilia on Thursday as his legal team presented his defense against charges of orchestrating an alleged coup against incumbent president Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in 2022. After requests for the extension of the deadline were denied, the defense of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro had until Thursday to send to the Supreme Court its statement on the complaint of the attempted coup d'etat. Bolsonaro was charged in mid-February with leading a criminal organization aiming to overthrow Brazil's 40-year-old democracy after he lost the 2022 election to Lula da Silva, whom they plan to poison. General Prosecutor Paulo Gonet filed the charges against the former far-right leader, along with a few of his former ministers, to Brazil's Supreme Court after the federal police lodged accusations of the plot last November. A conviction by the Supreme Court, which is overseeing the case, could land Bolsonaro in prison and create another obstacle for his plans of running for president next year. Bolsonaro, a former army captain, has repeatedly denied breaking any laws and calls allegations against him a witch hunt by his political opponents. Cyclone Alfred stalled off Australia's east coast on Thursday, delaying landfall as officials shut airports, schools and public transport, and residents stockpiled supplies and sent back homes against floodwaters expected when the Category 2 storm hits. The storm is now expected to make landfall by Friday evening or Saturday morning near Brisbane, Australia's third most populous city, said Queensland State Premier David Crisafulli, compared with the prior projection of a landfall by early Friday.
I want to address the cyclone intensity. It remains as a Category 2. And obviously we have seen the delay in the system heading towards the coast. Literally in the last few minutes we've been updated that that could now push into Saturday morning. So if we just unpack where we've been, we overnight saw the system spin around on itself and then it has resumed its journey into the coast. So exactly where it will hit and when still remains unknown.
However, the storm's destructive reach will stretch across the border regions of the states of Queensland and New South Wales, bringing heavy rain, flooding and damaging winds. Alfred has been called by officials a very rare event for Brisbane, Queensland's state capital, with the city last hit by a cyclone more than half a century ago in 1974. The city of around 2.7 million had near misses from cyclones in 1990 and in 2019. Torrential rains on Thursday caused floods that swept away cars as local authorities evacuated schools and closed roads in eastern Spain. 4 months after deadly flash floods in Valencia killed more than 220 people. The state weather agency IMET issued orange alerts for some parts of the Murcia, Valencia and Catalonia regions of the country's Mediterranean coast as officials told people to stay indoors. Spaniards are still nervous after heavy rains last year caught authorities off guard and caused the country's deadliest natural disaster in decades, with many blaming local and national officials for warning people of the danger too late. Fernando Lopez Miras, president of the Murcia region in southeastern Spain, said there had been no casualties on Thursday, although one person died when they were swept away in a flooded ravine earlier in the week. IMET said that in some areas, 120 millimeters of rain had fallen in 12 hours and some weather stations had experienced more rain in March than would normally be expected in all of the spring season. It said a new weather front coming from the west would mean the rains would continue across the country until the weekend. Microsoft will invest an additional $296.81 million, US dollars that is, by the end of 2027 to expand its cloud and artificial intelligence AI infrastructure in South Africa to meet the growing demand for the company's Azure services in the region. Microsoft Vice Chair and President Brett Smith said at an event in Johannesburg on Thursday that the world's biggest software maker would pay for technical certification exams for 50,000 individuals in high-demand digital skills. He added that the certification will be for cloud architecture, AI and cybersecurity. Microsoft has already spent 20.4 billion rand to set up South Africa's first enterprise-grade data centers in Johannesburg and Cape Town. The country has become a major hub for data centers to handle the high computational demands for AI as companies seek to integrate the technology into various products and services. Microsoft plans to invest about $80 million globally in fiscal 2025 on developing data centers to train AI models and deploy AI and cloud-based applications. And in other news, Elon Musk's SpaceX lost contact with its Starship rocket in space on Thursday during its 8th test mission, dooming a satellite deployment demonstration in the company's second consecutive Starship failure this year. The 123-meter rocket system had lifted off at about 6:30 p.m. local time from Boca Chica, Texas, with its super heavy first-stage booster returning back to land as planned. But minutes later, SpaceX's live stream showed the Starship understage spinning in space, while a visualization of the rocket's engines showed multiple engines shut down before the company confirmed it has lost contact with the ship. The Federal Aviation Administration issued ground stops at Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, and Orlando airports because of space launch debris until at least 8 p.m. The failure is another setback for SpaceX's Whirlwind Starship development program. Musk, SpaceX's CEO, has pushed for swift advances in the rocket's development in 2025. But a failure in Starship's first attempt to launch since exploding in space in January puts a dent in Musk's development vision, as he aims to build a rocket capable of sending bigger batches of satellites to space, as well as humans to the moon and Mars.
Boost back, burn, start up.
In sports, Al Hilal salvages 1 point in Al Qadsiya clash. Stay tuned. Al Ittihad's N'Golo Conte teamed up with Karim Benzema to score a last-minute goal to save the league leaders from a 1-0 defeat to third-place Al Qadsiya in the Saudi Pro League on Thursday. After a scoreless first half was followed by 45 more minutes without a goal, the home side looked assured of victory when Naita Nanda set up Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who scored the opening goal of the match in the first minutes of stoppage time. But with the clock ticking down, Al Ittihad answered back just 5 minutes later when Conte came down with a cross put up by Benzema and scored the equalizer from close range. A win from Al Qadsiya would have upended the title race, with the third-place team leaping ahead of second-place Al Hilal and gaining on Al Ittihad. Though they have now drawn 3 matches in a row, Al Ittihad extended their streak of scoring away from home in the Saudi top flight to 16 games, courtesy of Conte's late leveller. As it stands, Al Ittihad remain comfortably ahead on 58 points from 24 matches, with Al Hilal leading Al Qadsiya on goal difference, with both sitting on 51. Al Hilal also have a game in hand and will face lowly Al SAHIH later today.
11 p.m. local time.
Football's governing body, FIFA, on Thursday will review a proposal to expand the 2030 World Cup to 64 teams to mark the centenary of the sport's marquee event. The 2030 World Cup will be held in Morocco, Spain and Portugal, with Argentina, Paraguay and Uruguay, where the inaugural edition was staged, set to host 3 games. The World Cup has already been expanded from 32 to 48 teams for next year's edition in the US, Mexico and Canada. A proposal to analyze the 64-team FIFA World Cup to celebrate the centenary of the FIFA World Cup in 2030 was spontaneously raised by a FIFA Council member in the miscellaneous agenda item near the end of the FIFA Council meeting held on 5th March 2025. The idea was acknowledged as FIFA has a duty to analyze any proposal from one of its council members. FIFA was likely to be guided by financial and political benefits as much as sporting ones when it came to taking a decision on the matter. Its president, Gianni Infantino, described the proposal as an interesting one that should be analysed more closely. In French football, a day after receiving a 9-month suspension over a confrontation with a referee, Olympique Lyonnais coach Paulo Fonseca on Thursday vowed to fight the punishment while also saying the clash never got physical. The French Professional Football League LFP handed down the suspension on Wednesday following a confrontation with referee Benoit Miriot during Lyon's recent 2-1 Ligue 1 victory over Brest. The LFP said Fonseca would be barred from accessing the bench, the officials' dressing rooms and participating in any official functions before, during or after matches until 30th November. Fonseca was shown a straight red card after a review of a potential penalty for Brest, which the Brittany sides were not awarded for his intimidating attitude, according to Mio. On Thursday, Fonseca admitted he verbally attacked the referee but said it was not a physical confrontation. He said there was footage of the incident that can be watched to determine that he did not touch the referee and had never intended to. The coach also said he was thankful to have the support of his club.
Vers ma main, sur la face de l'arbitre, mais jamais à...
In motorsport, Lewis Hamilton felt the force of the Ferrari fans as he and teammate Charles Leclerc sped around Milan's Piazza Castello on Thursday before heading to Australia for the start of the Formula One season. Some 35,000 tifosi thronged the event presented by Ferrari sponsor UniCredit as 7 times world champion Hamilton performed smoking tyre burnouts after filling the city streets with noise. Hamilton drove a 2021 SF21 car while Leclerc was at the wheel of an SF90, the car in which he won his first race for the team in 2019, with both running at the same time and passing each other. The most successful team in Formula One have not won a championship since the 2018 Constructors' title, and Hamilton, moving from Mercedes to Maranello, arrives chasing a record 8. And that wraps up World Today. This time around, in our top story, UNRWA warns ongoing Israeli attacks aligned with West Bank annexation vision. Till then, I'm Brendan Lepol, Malaysia Madani. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thanks for watching. Take care.